Should we start with some positive highlights? Or maybe we should end on a high.
Trauma dump.
I'm Bridget Hustwaite and I'm here at RAC Arena for Women's History Month, and joining me are some of Perth's fiercest female creatives. Hello ladies.
Hello.
Hi. Yay, happy Women's History Month. It's great to have you here for a conversation about navigating the music industry as females. Let's start with an introduction. So, hi Grace.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Grace. I'm the front woman of alternative indie pop band Joan and the Giants. I'm from a farm down south. Our guitarist is from a remote Indigenous community up north, so we're from all over WA. And you know, we just supported Pink on her Perth leg, which was crazy for us. Just released a new single, just come back from tour, so it's been a really exciting 2024 so far.
And hello, Hazel.
Hi, I'm Hazel Meyer. I play the drums, do filmmaking, graphic design, merch design, a lot of random little things in Those Who Dream, which is a alternative rock band.
Love it. Great to have you here. You're a weapon. And here's Angie.
Hello, Bridget. My name's Annie Colman. I'm a singer-songwriter, musician, based in Perth, in Boorloo, originally from the hills of Boorloo. And I'm just about to release a new single, April 3rd, and me and my band that I work with have been working on an album, so big 2024, but yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking time to stop by. This is a fun conversation. It's great that we're all, here. You know, this is the first time we've all kind of been in the same room at the same time. We've all got different perspectives on what it's like to be navigating the music industry. And before we get into it, of course, acknowledging the lands in which we gather. As you mentioned, we're in Perth and Boorloo, and acknowledging the Whadjuk Noongar people. So very privileged to be here. So have you guys felt that kind of isolation, and perhaps even being a female is an added layer to that, of not only breaking through in the Australian music industry as a female, as an independent artist, but also hailing from WA and having that? Like, who can speak on that? Who wants to go?
I feel like in some ways it's really isolating and really hard, but I found that the WA music industry are actually all very supportive of each other. So it's like, in some ways you're so far away, the most isolated city in the world in Perth, but there's also like a really beautiful edge to that, where it's like, everyone wants to see each other succeed. We're not actually that competitive. Like, you know, we all support each other. Like, whenever Angie gets an exciting opportunity, I'm like, yeah!
Yeah, and you guys have been on stage together and stuff.
Yeah, we're quite good friends. So I feel like when you had the Pink opportunity, I was just like, we were at the bar when Grace told me, and I was just like, shots! Yeah, oh my God, it was just amazing.
Yeah. So that's like the beautiful part. But then also, you know, I found it really difficult to actually get into the Perth music scene. At first, I really struggled to like make friends and feel included. And it took me like a year and a half, 2 years. And then I met all these amazing women who were in bands who also felt like complete outsiders.
Really?
And like they couldn't really get in.
So was this like a sexist thing? Was it like, do you think it's been particularly harder for female musicians to break through to that scene?
Yeah, it was really hard at the start. And when I met these women, like, who also just were like, I'm really struggling in this scene, like I can't get a leg up, you know, it was hard at the start. We just all became like very close. We started like, you know, supporting each other's shows, started doing meetings, started like giving each other ideas, just backing each other all the way.
No gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping, and it's changed my life. Like, these women are the only reason why I'm still in this music industry.
And Hazel, perhaps this is something that you can speak on, just hearing your journey with coming to understand your true identity, your true gender, coming out at the end of 2022 as a transgender woman, which would be, an extra layer to that navigation. So do you want to talk us through what that journey's been like, and how you feel as a transgender woman in the Australian music scene?
I mean, I'm definitely excited to meet this community that you speak of, because I've like just started like becoming friends with a lot more people over here, and it has been really helpful because, like you said, it's like the outsiders that I've connected with. It's the people who are not necessarily feeling the most like at home in the Perth scene, or they're doing something that Perth people find to be too different, which is something I've definitely experienced just because the genre that my band makes is like not the dominant genre in Perth. It's not like the sort of more indie surf kind of stuff. It's more like there's backing tracks and there's like electronic bits and it's like pop songwriting. But yeah, that's definitely been interesting.
Okay, just like a quick fire from each of you. What is like the singular most frustrating part of being a female in music? Like what's a barrier that you have faced? Like whether it's, whether it could be in the context of feeling like you're the token female on a festival lineup.
Oh yeah,
God,
that's
how
a
many
big one.
times?
How many times?
Really? Okay, who wants to go?
Who wants to go?
I'll fight you.
I think for us, especially when we were saying yes to every single show, as you do in the first like 5 years, 6 years, until very recently when we're like, I'm so exhausted. I think we would say yes because we got so excited to be offered shows. And
Just to have an opportunity.
Yeah, and have an opportunity. And we would jump on these shows and we'd get there, we'd play, and we're like, this is like a really heavy punk show. Like, what
that
on
happened to
earth
me all
am
the
I
time.
doing on this lineup?
Yeah.
And, the audience is sort of retracts. They're like, why is this angelic, ethereal, like, nice sort of pop tracks, vocal thing happening? And they're like, where's the heavy, guitars and smashing the drums? And you can see they're really confused. And that's just because that band really has just found the first female band that has said yes.
You'll do.
And be like, you'll do. I'm sure you'll be fine. Chuck them on the lineup. Now we're accepted. We can play this show. Because unfortunately with tokenism, it's so important to have inclusivity. It is like absolutely vital. We must have like females on lineups. But there's so many female artists that would suit that genre. Like do your research, And in every single genre, there's going to be an incredible female fronted band that would smash that show out and do an amazing job. But don't just pick like the first female artist that you see or the first female artist that says yes.
And you know what, if we probably need more women programming these things and queer people just like not men programming these things, because they make the best decisions in my experience every time. I'm like, this is so much better than what I've seen, unfortunately, mostly like men program.
Yeah.
And our industry is pretty like nepotistic. Is that the word? Like there's a bit of nepotism that happens in our industry where it's like the person who's programming the event picks their friends or picks the bands that they like and the bands that they, it's who you know, not what you know a lot of the time. And I think like for me, my experience is that I'm the one woman that they've met. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've met other women, but they're like, oh, I know this chick who plays guitar. Annie Colman's got an electric guitar. We've met her. We know her. And it's just because I'm quite like I go to a lot of shows and I meet a lot of people when I'm, including myself in the industry. Like I just go to gigs. I go hard, too hard. But do you know what I mean? Like because I've met a lot of people, I think that was why I was given the opportunities. I know that the people who are booking me are mostly men, and I know that the people who are booking me are mostly not people who have listened to my music. That's just statistically speaking what I'm looking at. It's
wild.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's really weird. So it's
so wild.
It's sort of that disconnect. It's just like, we know we have to have girls now, so I guess we'll just talk to this person we've met before.
But typically for a female or gender diverse or a queer person, it's not such a deliberate, like, it's just like a natural inclusion. I don't know. Is that like accurate to say?
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about, because you played Transverse, right? That was on the East Coast?
Transgenre?
Transgenre.
So close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, let's go into a Transverse.
No, but
should
like,
be a new one.
Girl, Transverse, like that's beautiful. I love
like
that.
It's a universe, It's an empire. Take it, run with it. But that was on the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
Something like that in WA, like have we seen anything like that? Is that a void, an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge success. So it was a festival called Transgenre, and it was all trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming artists, which was just, you can imagine the music. It was just like, it was such an eclectic, like amazing mix. The crowd was just the most diverse, like beautiful, welcoming people ever. I'm so glad that a thing like that exists, and it took two queer people, my friends Ellie and Tim over in Melbourne, to actually make it happen. But without their passion and without them pouring all that money and like heart into it, there's no way it would have happened. But there is such a market for it because I saw so many like young people there who like 15-year-olds who I'm like, imagine if I went to something like this at 15.
Life-changing.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm really glad things like that are starting to pop up. I haven't seen anything in Perth. I know a friend of mine, Georgia, does an event, Cherry Bomb, which often like does really
love Cherry
well.
Bomb.
Cherry Bomb's great.
But that's really like all we have, to my knowledge. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, and I think there's a lot of people like eagerly waiting for something like that.
Yeah. I think the like sanctuary. I know, I'm trying to think
I know
of the
what you
word.
mean.
Like it feels like a really safe place to be.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Taylor Swift earlier before we sat down, and I feel like it was a space where people felt so, like specifically women, felt really safe.
Yeah.
And I think what was the festival called?
Transgenre?
Transgenre. Okay.
Because it's
So-
transgender people playing transgenre music.
Yeah, right.
What a
I get
name.
it.
Ellie Snap.
But like like we all know like about the statistics of like violence against women, and specifically violence against trans women is quite high. Like it would have been such a beautifully inclusive, safe place to be. And I know how I felt at festivals, and like I've been assaulted at plenty of festivals, sexually assaulted at plenty of festivals, and regular assaulted, like, you know, someone throws a beer can at you or someone grabs your ass, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're things that like we've become sort of accustomed to, and it would have been a beautiful experience for you to be at Taylor Swift and just
In the
not
biggest crowd of your life.
The
and never
biggest crowd of your
never
life.
feel
Never
safer.
felt unsafe
Yeah.
at one point
Yeah.
in that crowd. Everyone, even the men are just like so wholesome at Taylor Swift. Like, and they're all there like usually with their girlfriends or partners. And, you know, and there's so many kids, and everyone it's just the most beautiful like girlhood environment where everyone's sharing bracelets, and she's created the most safe place with like, what was it, like 90,000 people, 92,000,
in
96,000.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's crazy on such a global scale. It's great to have that point of reference, but just to figure out how can that trickle down beyond intimate venues, I'd even say within studio spaces, sound check. So maybe if we kind of dart into those physical settings and what it's like as a, you know, a female identifying musician, does anyone have any experiences from perhaps being in a studio and just being like, I feel like I'm not being heard or I'm not being taken seriously? Has anyone had to experience that?
like a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I feel like the imposter syndrome thing that you were saying before is like very, very prevalent for me. And sometimes it's hard to tell what's like actual discrimination and what's me sort of thinking that someone who is, you know, maybe a bit of a controlling person or something, and that's just how they act to everyone. Like, it can be hard to differentiate, but certainly I have been in studio situations, sound engineers, like like where I've just felt like they have seen me and looked at who I am, like taken whatever visual I've given them as a person and decided how to treat me from then. So, you know.
Especially when you've got like your band are mostly dudes, but they're dudes, right?
Yeah.
So
they always talk to
them?
sometimes the sound guy talks to
go straight to them.
like
That's happened to me
what's
so
the
many
setup
times.
here?
Really?
Also, the amount of times I've actually talked to like a male sound engineer and been like, oh, my fallback is peaking. I can hear like there's something going on with my vocal or my effects unit or my guitar. And like sound guys have gone up to the guys and be like, can you hear that? And they'll be like, yes, we can. That's why
So
she's
they have to
telling
get a
you.
second opinion.
Yeah, instead of just being like, oh, I'm just going to listen to her. They'll have to go to like my guitarist or bass player and like check it with them. Just to believe me.
But we've been playing
It's
shows
insane.
for years.
I
Like,
know.
They need to take the context clues of you've gotten this opportunity.
Yeah.
Like you've either booked the venue or you're like the headlining act or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Use that to maybe think this might be someone who's doing their job just like you are. I mean, I've been lucky that that first festival that I played, Good Things Festival over East, the crew were like really, really lovely to me because, I mean, it was a big festival where they were looking after bands who are like very important, and we were the smallest band on that lineup, but they still gave us the like, well, you've gotten here, you must know what you're doing kind of thing. And I also like, I'm very blessed to have the protection of our singer being a man. Like I feel safe in that always.
Yeah.
But I just think more people need to understand that if you've gotten to this position to be on a stage, you probably know what you're doing.
Probably know how to operate the stage, the
Yeah.
logistics of it. They're not
You've
just like
probably done
pulled
it
off the
before.
street, you know.
I think like this industry, and we were talking about it before, about like how gatekeepy it can be. I think that there's a certain level, and I find this as a guitarist, there's a bit of gatekeeping. There's a bit of like, you need to be a certain type of guitarist before you're respected as one.
Is it mostly men who are kind of instilling this kind of gatekeeping or that expectation of you?
Absolutely, but it's mostly men who are guitarists.
Yeah.
I think that's why like the boys club was the hardest part, especially in the early years of the Perth music industry, because I've been in it for quite a few years now, and I found a big boys club mentality before, like, because we were really in the industry, or I was in the industry before there was like a big push on female lineups.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it was actually quite revolting. Like, I was there when men especially were commenting on like, why do we need to do this? Like, why can't we just play with our mates? And they're still doing it. Like, I had a conversation with a guy about this the other day, he's a Perth musician, and he was saying like, I don't understand like why I can't just get my mates on a night just to play. Like, I feel like it's actually sexist not to be able to do that. And I was like,
Oh no.
I'm sorry, but why do we still have this mentality? Like what you're talking about, the visibility. If women don't see women on stage, like,
How are we meant to go
how
on
are we meant to go?
stage?
And especially like playing guitar, playing drums, playing instruments, because often we're just like, as soon as you get to a sound check, they're like, oh, you're the singer. Straight away they'll think that you're the singer because you're a woman. And it's like, if we don't have the opportunity to be able to see women on stage, how are we going to have a next generation of female musicians, like, who are incredible musicians, who are incredible drummers, bass players, like, you know, your Grace Barbets, who's just slaying on the bass. Like, you know, you've got your Siobhan Cotchins and like your Annie Colmans, and you've got these incredible female as well fronted musicians who are also playing instruments, and you've got to be able to have this, and you on the drums, like, and I think that's incredible to see a female drummer. And I just get so inspired by my friends who are just like, you know, and the women I see and the touring bands I see. And I think if we don't have that space and we go back, I'm actually seeing a lot more all-male lineups popping up.
Yeah.
And for some reason it's being reversed.
They think
like,
we've done it. We've done
Yeah.
our job. Like,
they're like, we've done that, it's all moved on.
Tick the box.
It's like, no, it hasn't. Like, we've just started. We've just, and even still, like the huge festivals around the country, as you can see, like with Blues Fest and things like that.
Still calling it out.
Like, you know, it's still a very small lineup of women on there amongst like so many men.
One thing I want to mention, you know, and you shouted out Grace Barbet, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this morning. You know, in terms of visibility, there's obviously a hierarchy. When we talk privilege, we need to acknowledge the fact that it's a pretty white-centric discussion that we're having. So I think what would be a good thing to kind of reflect on is, you know, how can we as, you know, white, female identifying people who work in the music industry, like, what do we need to do better to help elevate women of colour, First Nations artists, more queer and gender diverse, gender non-conforming artists? Because whilst we've definitely experienced our hardships, we definitely have a layer of privilege in our whiteness, whether or not we identify as hetero, whatever. So yeah, what do we need to be working on? Like, I'm sure we've got tips and ideas for each other.
I was just gonna say, I think the thing with having more women, more people who aren't white, etc., on lineups that people aren't getting is that to reverse or to do anything to make a change, we need to go hard in having too many to then go back to having maybe equality eventually. But having just a tiny section of people who aren't white men is not, it's not like radical enough. Like, I think we need to like people are saying like, why does it have to be about gender? Why does it have to be about race? Can't we just have talented people? It's got to be because those people have like historically been not included. So to get to somewhere where they are like equally included, I think personally we need to have like too many of like non-white men on lineups to then like reel it back eventually. Like we need to have a lot more.
Yeah.
We need to have a lot more.
And we all set up, the three of us all set up shows, right? Like we're all playing headline gigs. If that's one thing that we can do is just like think about inclusivity when we create our lineups. Like I know for me, accidentally, the past 2 lineups that I've created have been all women. But I just couldn't, I don't know what happened. I was like, oh,
How about that?
sick, lots of girls, we love the girlies. But I think like definitely racial diversity and like ethnic diversity like is one thing that this year I really want to focus on, because there's just like not enough representation in Perth, and it's not like there's not the musicians. They're there. They're there, and they're doing the genres that we are in, you know. It's not that they're not doing it, it's that we can't see them. And so it's like what we were saying about men picking us for lineups. We should be doing our research and including women of colour and non-binary people of colour and gender diverse people of colour in our lineups, as well as women and non-binary people, gender diverse people. Like we should be taking it a step further because they're even more unseen.
Yeah.
You know?
We've all got that responsibility. So whether it's just show curation, even for me as a music presenter and the music that I'm highlighting on my social platforms, making that, you know, real effort to acknowledge beyond, you know, the white realm and making sure there's true representation. Because yeah, again, you can't be what you can't see, and we've all got a role to play there.
And that's something just like I'm incredibly passionate about that as well. Oh God, I could go on about this for hours. But again, like, you know, our whole national lineup that we got coming up, I just gravitate towards female lineups as well for safe spaces. And when it comes to inclusivity, racial inclusivity, I mean, my guitarist, Aaron, is Indigenous. He's a Nyul man from up north in the Kimberley, and we are really, really passionate about that inclusivity. And we also, the three of us also work with and teach people with disabilities music. And, you know, we put on shows for these people with disabilities, and we're really trying to create inclusive spaces where people can actually have wheelchair access, because we also forget about that all the time.
Absolutely.
And that really upsets me. Like my student Chloe is phenomenal, and she can never access stages around Perth. Only really the Rosemountain has access. Everything else, every other stage really doesn't, and you have to like, you can't even really lift her on the stage. She has to perform in front of the stage. And like this is ridiculous. Like so much needs to change, and I think we all need to do, like if we're curating a lineup, it should be beyond just also white women, you know. It should be so much more inclusive than that. And it really is about doing your research and just making the effort, you know.
100%.
And I spend all day in self-doubt.
Well, as we bring this conversation to a close, I think a great thing to do would be think of some words of wisdom that we can pass on to anyone who might be watching, young, aspiring, female identifying artists who want to know how to break through, how to navigate this hectic industry. What words of advice can we share, ladies?
I always struggle not to just say like, just do it, like just go for it. But like that is the sentiment, is that I hope that there is enough people, women to look up to that can prove that it is possible. I mean, there needs to be way more, but like, I think at least in 2024, someone growing up would at least have more women to look up to than maybe we did when we were growing up. But just be bad at things, I think, just like, I can't leave it there, can I? Just be bad at things. Do you get what I'm saying? Just
You learn the most through failure. You don't
There we
really,
go.
you can learn from success, but you know, you have to fail, and those mistakes are lessons.
yeah. And it will be very tough, and there will
Yeah.
be many embarrassing moments, but like,
It's not how you fall, it's how you get back up, you know?
girl,
It's like
yeah.
a poster on your auntie's toilet door. Yeah. Angie, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I think like just trust yourself. You know, there've been so many times where I feel like people haven't believed in me and therefore I couldn't do it. But I think if you just trust that you can do what you want to do, if you just like you're saying, keep going. And
back
don't
yourself.
Yeah, back yourself. Like don't give up on whatever dream you've got, whatever it is, whether it be music or something else. Like just keep working.
If I was going to look at my younger self, I'm so grateful I didn't give up, because it's really hard, like especially because as the front woman especially, or you know, the person who's really trying to push the band forward or your project forward, you got to do so much work and you got to hustle, and like you've really got to back yourself, as you said, and believe in yourself every step of the way, because there's a lot of rejection that comes. There's a lot of people who, you know, do try to tear you down, and it's really about backing yourself, building a community around you that supports you, and you know, working hard and believing in your music and what you're creating, because it's so worth it when you have connection with people and when you do the show and you just feel so much love for what you're doing, and you can actually, you know, connect with your audience and people that care about what you're trying to say. It's the most beautiful feeling, and it's really worth it in the end, even if it's to like 5 people that care. Like, it's worth it.
And final words for what we hope to see moving forward. So Angie, what do you want to see change or more of in the music industry, especially for women?
Yeah, I think for me, I have been really lucky that I've had support like from RAC Arena, winning the Limelight grant at the start of this year in 2024. And I just think like we just need people to bring up the little guys and like be really inclusive when they think about who they're giving grants to, who they're putting on their lineups, who are they listening to. Like, just if you have any type of power in an industry or any type of power in what you do, just checking yourself and saying, how can I make things better for the people around me? And all I can hope is that like we're all doing that on a daily basis, and hopefully that eventuates to more equality and more equity, gender equity.
And Hazel, runner-up recipient for Limelight Music Grant as well, which is amazing. What are your final words of hope?
I think what Angie was saying, just people, if people were doing more research into finding more women in music, they will find it, and they'll realize they're not just having to choose them to uplift a community that has like historically not been like shown as much. They'll be doing it because they're actually extremely talented. I think there just needs to be a wider net cast, and people need to listen to more music because there is so many incredible women doing so many incredible things. And often like a lot of things, like, I mean, myself being a multifaceted creative, I know a lot of women do the same and are still called a songwriter or are still called, you know, just the one thing, without acknowledging how incredible they really are.
100%. And Grace, final brief words?
In the future, I want to see more inclusivity. I want to see so many women, non-binary people, queer people on stage, you know, slaying their instruments, playing like just so much more representation on lineups, on big festival lineups, you know, globally, and obviously in Australia, and on a local level as well. Just so much more representation and celebration and backing of women in music.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Grace, Hazel, Angie, thank you so much for joining me for Women's History Month at RAC Arena.
Thanks for having us.
Yay!